Oh, it's the most stressful job in the world, isn't it? SEO. I do it. I mean, tracking our rankings, and one day I'm on a high, and then within an hour, I'm crying into my tea.
What do you mean a people-driven company?
The team raised £27,000 for a local charity. So when we say we're people driven, we're people driven. Like, we really are people driven.
Where and how are you leveraging AI right now inside of Higgs?
I mean, I wasn't using AI at my old firm. Now I use it every single day, and it's changed search dramatically and will continue to do so.
Michelle Hughes is the head of digital marketing at Midlands law firm Higgs LLP, a UK-based law firm that's breaking the mold when it comes to branding and digital strategy. From leading a full rebrand to turning lawyers into relatable LinkedIn voices, Michelle blends SEO, storytelling, and real human connection in a way most B2B companies still struggle to figure out. And in this episode, she's sharing exactly how they do it.
How did you plan the LinkedIn part of your strategy, and how did it connect to the rebrand of Higgs?
LinkedIn is it's social, being the key word, networking tool. So let's use it like a networking tool, because you wouldn't go to an event.
Would you stick more towards text content or video content on LinkedIn?
Don't be a slave to the algorithm. If it's content that people are interested in, you will get impressions, likes, comments, regardless of what format it is. We didn't really have a brand. We had a logo and a visual identity, which I think a lot of people mistake for a brand.
So if you could send yourself a piece of marketing advice back to your 1800 self, the Yahoo self, what would you say?
Need coffee with experts.
Michelle, what do you mean a people-driven company? Tell us more about it, and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. So Higgs, when we say people-driven, we mean that we put people at the absolute front and center of everything we do, not just with clients, which is the sort of obvious one, but we actually do for employees, our team, the community that we work with. So yesterday, my colleague Claire was hosting our biggest event, which is a football tournament for all of our local business partners. But it's actually
that's so nice.
Yeah, and it's to raise money for charity. So yesterday, Claire and the wider Higgs team, but Claire's the absolute front and centre of this, and the team raised £27,000 for a local charity. So when we say we're people driven, we're people driven. Like, we really are people driven.
That's so nice. I think the first question that I'll ask them about you and Claire, what's the team you support?
So what football team? We support different teams, so we probably shouldn't talk about that. So a lot of our office are Wolves fans, so Wolverhampton Wolves. But I am from Coventry, and so I support Coventry. And it's still a little bit of a sore point because Coventry City actually knocked Wolverhampton Wanderers out of the FA Cup. I think it was last year, actually. So it was a great day for me in the office, not so good for everybody else.
I have the same treatment here. I'm a huge Barcelona fan, and the office entirely knows about it, but they're all Real Madrid fans. So, but luckily for...
It makes for good fun, though, doesn't it? It makes for good fun.
Yeah. It does. And luckily for you and I, we have been winning against them, against the office.
Yeah, that's it. Occasionally it goes...
time to be alive. That's it. That's entirely it. Look, Michelle, the way I would like to start this conversation itself is by understanding a little bit more about you first. So why don't you tell us what hooked you into digital marketing? What hooked you into this market itself? What drove you towards marketing, towards Higgs? And then we can move forward with that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's sort of like a lot of people. I think I ended up in a career that I didn't necessarily plan. And it wasn't, obviously, I'm quite old. So when I was at school, you didn't have careers planning like you do now. You were given you're sort of given like a multi-choice list, and I think they said I'd make a good secretary or an air hostess or something, and I thought, well, I'm not so sure about that. No, but I was quite creative. I've always enjoyed, even in my spare time, I like photography and I like drawing. So I knew I wanted to do something creative. So I started off as a graphic designer, working for like a local company many, many, many years ago. And it was actually sort of an exhibition and events company. They're still going. They're really good, really nice place to work. But I kind of got on, I was designing sets and things, and I thought, oh, I'm not sure I'm actually that good at this. So there was a bit of a shift. So I did a bit of design work, then went to work for it, was made redundant, then went to work for another firm. And yeah, it was that realization that actually, if I'm going to do something, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, which is quite irritating for the people I work with at times. But it was like, I want to do something and do it really, really well. So the company I was working for at the time, they were one of the first people to do a job board. It was sort of around the dot-com boom. and they needed someone to say, we've got this website, which is great, but how do we get people to look at it? So it was before Google existed. Yeah, yes, I am that old. And it was well before Google existed. So the whole idea was you had to get your website into the Yahoo directory, which is just like the Yellow Pages online, really. So I kind of thought, oh, I'll give this a go. And that's kind of how it started, really. So my sort of sidestep into digital marketing was sort of by accident. There was someone needed to do it. I thought it sounded quite interesting and I would like a challenge. And the rest is history, I think, as they say.
50 years later, here we are.
150 years later.
150 years later, here we are. That's a great one. And what about how much has it changed in your? I mean, of course, it has changed so much. So I'm going to actually repurpose my question. What do you miss about the old days?
So when I first started doing digital, and even probably up until maybe 10 years ago, your digital marketing manager or whatever, they weren't called digital marketing managers. They were called
Oh, yeah, I imagine.
e-marketing managers or internet marketing managers. I think I've been both at some point.
That's a very nice trivia. Thank you for sharing. I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, it was, digital marketing's relatively new, really. Yeah, so you used to do getting into the Yahoo directory or the equivalent. There were so many different directories. And then when paid media or pay-per-click, as it was called then, because that's all you did, like there wasn't paid media, there was banner advertising, obviously, but you'd have banner advertising, and the equivalent of your digital marketing manager would do everything, and they were the expert in the building about all things digital. And the main change has just been that every area now has granular levels of expertise. So I do a lot of SEO stuff myself. And now you have SEO experts, but you have an SEO expert, SEO content expert, SEO technical expert, SEO schema expert. You get down these granular levels of detail, and to be honest, it's mind-blowing and almost impossible to keep up with. So I think my career has evolved quite a bit in that I still do some of the do, but I also have to recognize where my skill set and my knowledge ends, because you can't possibly know about paid media, social media, SEO, usability. It's just absolutely impossible.
So much.
So it's changed dramatically. And even in the last 2 years, I mean, I wasn't using AI at my old firm. Now I use it every single day, and it's changed search dramatically and will continue to do so. So it's huge. And I think it will, well, it's actually impossible to keep up with it all, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's really hard to keep up with it. That's where LinkedIn for me is just an absolute godsend. I can't cope without LinkedIn. Yeah, so it's changed dramatically.
Let's talk about the LinkedIn part of things. I know already that you were part of a big rebrand inside of Higgs. And right now you even redone your values, and I would love for you to share more about them, but also about the strategy in being LinkedIn first. Because for one side, I 100% agree, and I wish I could have the time to do so, and I hope I will be able to do so in the future. But on the other hand, it's actually very rare to see real results about it. We see a lot of salespeople on LinkedIn promising entire results and a better life overall, but it's hard to really see those that did it and conquered it. So since you are one of those, how was it all? How did you plan the LinkedIn part of your strategy, and how did it connect to the rebrand of Higgs?
So a lot of it was, so when I started at Higgs in January 23, I think.
Okay.
I think that's right. I can't remember. I've been here. I'm part of the furniture now, so around that kind of time.
Yeah, around that.
And the Higgs had got like a really fantastic reputation, but they didn't really have a strong brand. So we were looking at, rather than come in and throw loads of money at advertising and different things, like let's get the foundations right first. So it was really back to basics. So sort the brand out, sort the website out, because that's always your sort of fundamental digital touch point, I would argue. And then it was like, right, what strategies have we got in place for the different social media channels? And we were doing a lot of what everybody does, and that's using social as a push. And you still hear people saying it, have you pushed this on social media yet? And you think, no, because that's the equivalent of putting junk mail through someone's letterbox, isn't it, really? It's just, you pick it up in a bundle and you just throw it in the bin. So it was trying to turn the strategy on its head and get people to buy into the fact that actually LinkedIn is social, being the key word, networking tool. So let's use it like a networking tool, because you wouldn't go to an event.
Right.
The thing I say to our lawyers when I get a bit of pushback occasionally is, you wouldn't walk into a face-to-face networking event and start talking about case law, because you would clear the room. Like you'd be stood at a little island and everybody would just disappear.
You would be that guy, right? Oh, That
Yeah,
guy's
you
here
like
talking
keep
about
away from that
kids.
one. Keep
Well,
away from that one. So it's about what are the things that you would talk about when you meet someone? You know, you chat about I don't know, if your holidays or your weekends or sports or your family or whatever is important to you. So it was trying to bring that onto what is a social network, really.
mhm.
And it works because if you're a lawyer, I don't think it actually matters what you do for a living. If you put yourself on there, your job title pretty much tells people what you do, and it's a kind of
Yeah,
give that you know what you're doing, or you're probably in the
yeah.
wrong job. So it's sort of like, oh, well, they're a lawyer. Oh, he says lawyer. Okay, I know what you do. There's loads of lawyers. Why would I pick you over another lawyer? And it's really about any human interaction, isn't it? It's about finding common interests, common values, those kind of things, and you can't bring that across in corporate jargon. You have to just be yourself. So if you want to talk about what you did at the weekend and then link it to what you do at work, brilliant. And it was really about that. So it was about, again, because we're a people driven firm and we've got some really great people, let's show people our people. And it has worked, or it continues to work, because it's about showing people who we really are behind those corporate headshots that we've all got. You know, we all look slightly nervous because who likes having a camera shoved in their face? Is like, here's the real person. Here's a bit of their personality. They're telling you about all sorts of things that are important to them, not the law.
And even Google talking, you were mentioning about SEO for a little bit. Even Google wants everybody to show their authority and show their reputation and show that they're for real and they're not AI based. And right now we have the possibility of creating people with AI. So showing that we are for real, that we exist, that we are on YouTube, that we are somewhere else is very much important. I agree. Would you even recommend, if you were to start your own business right now outside of the law market itself, would you recommend a similar strategy for small companies that are in a very competitive market but need to put themselves people first? Or do you think this just worked because it was a mix of the people inside of Higgs with the strategy itself? Nobody should replicate. What's your view about it? About the
No,
rebrand, how successful it was?
the rebrand or the LinkedIn side, or both. On the LinkedIn side,
Both?
definitely. So I was actually talking to a friend of mine, and I'll make him listen to this. So I was talking
Nice.
to a friend of mine on Wednesday night, and he's got a business, and they offer coaching and leadership, and their sort of
Nice.
target people are HR directors. And we were chatting about LinkedIn, and I was saying this exact same thing to him. So he's got about 1,000 followers, connections, and how can he use LinkedIn to reach those people? So I was talking him through, I wouldn't say a strategy. It wasn't that in depth of a conversation, but very much that kind of headline of how I would approach it. Because particularly for him, his target audience is HR directors. So LinkedIn is full of HR people. I think it goes back to, depending on what the business is, it depends who their target audience are and whether their
Hmm.
target audience are on that platform. I think a huge amount of businesses, not just in the legal space, make the mistake of saying, right, we need to be on every social media channel. There you've got, and that's not the right way to look at it. It's always find a solution for a problem. Don't just do what everybody else is doing. So if you're in the B2B market, I would definitely be looking at LinkedIn for
It's
any
great to
kind,
know.
and not just the let's push it out on the brand account. That doesn't work. Yeah, it's getting your people to connect with other people and build
Hmm.
relationships.
And you have have so much companies right now with their Instagram account, and you have like 5 posts from 2022 and never posted again. And you have like 200 followers, which is everybody's friends and family
Yeah,
from the company, right? From those that work in the company, and they don't push it forward, as you said so yourself. And I even wouldn't push it forward either on Instagram anymore. It changed so much. The audience on Instagram changed so much as well. They're not
yeah.
going to be there looking for companies,
No,
B2B companies.
no, and I think so. We sort of closed our Instagram channel down for a while because, again, one of the strategies was, right, let's, rather than go all out, all social media channels,
Mm-hmm.
let's concentrate on one, get that right, and then sort of move on to the next one. So LinkedIn is obviously our main social media channel. We do also use Facebook, and we've just reactivated the Instagram channel. But there will be quite different strategies for each because it's a different audience. So on
Yeah.
our Instagram, our intention is to share more about the kind of culture of Higgs, the community work, working, sort of bringing our values to life, I suppose. Whereas LinkedIn is obviously, as you've seen, is very much about individuals rather than the brand account. We do still use it, we do still post, but our people across the board, I mean, Sophie, our HR director, has got more followers than the Higgs account. So combined,
That's nice.
yeah, well, combined, we've got this huge reach, and we'll be reaching people that the brand account would never reach, because who wants to know? Let's be honest, brand accounts are always from the marketing team. People know that.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear what the marketing team, they want to
Mm-mm.
hear what the lawyers have got to say. So yeah, it's about having a different approach to each channel, not this, we all use the scheduling tools. Don't just tick, 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 send this content to all these channels. Let's have a different approach for each channel and pick channels where our audience are.
Knowing more about the lawyers' lives, their cases, their successes and failures does look more interesting than, for example, today's the Law Day.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Law Day. Congratulations, lawyers. I know it's a nice thing to post even so, but it won't create the engagement that you're having on LinkedIn by showing and sharing true life stories, right?
Yeah, because it's about human connection, isn't it? And if you came on
Yeah.
this call and tried to sell to me, I mean, I might have politely sat here and nodded, but in my head, I've just switched off. By having a chat at the start and you telling me about popcorn, so that's the bit where you start to build a bit of rapport. So, and I think that's it. That's all we're trying to replicate on LinkedIn, really. We're not trying to sell to
Perfect.
people. We're trying to stay front of mind so that when you have a dispute with your neighbour over some bamboo, the first person you think of is our lawyer, Pete, because he puts humour into bamboo disputes, and that's what we want. It's about staying front of mind, and this is not just Higgs doing it. There's some other lawyers at other firms that are doing a fantastic job as well. But if you say to people, name me a lawyer that does this, it's those personalities on LinkedIn that you can probably name.
Michelle, I think we should talk more about this. I think we should continue talking more about this because it's a very interesting conversation to be had. 7 of them are already top 100 voice on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
This is fantastic, but this is hard to get. It involves a lot of not only, I wouldn't even say creativity first, but consistency, right? Because you need to post a lot. You need to make sure that you're not only posting once a month to become a top voice. So how did you brief your team into doing it? How did you make sure that everything was going according to schedule?
So we're really, really lucky at Higgs, like hugely so, that we have a genuinely fantastic culture and it's a really supportive place to work. And I don't think we would have had the success we have without that. So a lot of it's been led by Sophie, to be perfectly honest, who's obviously our HR director, because I think people are a bit nervous about posting on LinkedIn the stuff that's nothing to do with work, because they've still got that, LinkedIn's becoming Facebook, and you think, well, no, not really, because Facebook's changed dramatically. Facebook's now all community groups about parking and dogs barking. So it's not. It's probably how Facebook was 15 years ago, maybe. So there's still that real reluctance. People don't want to put themselves out there. But when you've got someone, it is a marketing strategy, but you need one of the business leaders to get on board with it.
That's true.
So once Sophie started doing it, and I mean, Sophie's just amazing, but once she started doing it, people were like, oh, well, if the HR director can talk about, I mean, some of the things, hopefully Sophie won't mind me saying this because I'm about to. Sophie's a hoarder. So she's got stuff around her, not in a psychological sense, but she's got loads of stuff and she finds it and she tells stories. She's a really, really good storyteller and she links it to what she does. Obviously, being a HR director, she's very, very people driven. So she manages to engage with people and she's as nice in real life as she is on LinkedIn, and people sort of get that. And then they meet her in real life and they comment on that. So she's very, very authentic in what she's posting about and the way she's doing it. And I think that's what people really like. So when you've got the HR director doing it, other people are like, well, actually, I can do that. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to share your life experiences. It's okay to chat about stuff, hedgehogs, like really what could be deemed really random stuff, but actually people connect with that. So I think, Sophie has been really key to it as well, because we needed that business leader to step out of her comfort zone and show other people what can be done. And people have followed. So we've never had like a brief about, you should post about this, you should post about that. When people have asked advice, we'll give them advice on, have you thought about this? You could do that. And then we've just encouraged people, really. It doesn't take much to start. People get caught up in the metrics, and I do tell them, try and say,
the likes, the engagement.
like, it's a dopamine hit. Social media is designed to get you addicted. Ignore it within reason, because so Kirsty's one of our charity lawyers, so her posts, because she posts about charity, she still brings her personality into it, and she does a lot for charity herself, so you'll see some of her stories about that. So she ran the London Marathon earlier this year, but she doesn't get the same levels of engagement, so from a vanity metric point of view she's not as successful, but actually she probably has generated more inquiries than anybody else.
That's great to know.
Yeah, don't get caught up in the metrics. There's a really
No.
all do it, don't they? As marketeers, we love those graphs. We absolutely love them, but they don't tell in isolation. They don't tell the full story. So I think, particularly when you're people starting out, and if you don't have a huge following or you don't have many active connections, it can be really disheartening because you put your heart and soul into a post and you get like 5 likes and one of them's your mum, and it's sort of like, I don't know why I bothered, but actually people are reading your stuff. You just don't know
They
it. They're
are.
not interacting. So just keep plugging away. You will get there.
Yeah. And look, even I noticed this, that people are watching, they're not interacting. Whenever I post pictures about Popcorn, my dog, they're usually amazingly cute pictures. And not a lot of, even the best friends that I have, they don't give their time to push a like. But I know that they're watching the content itself. I know that they're there. No, they even comment later when they come home. Oh, I saw your post or your picture story about Popcorn. She's amazing. And then you're like, why didn't you validate my social effort by giving me a like? But I think it's the standard. It's actually the exception whenever somebody's making an effort, put a like to engage with the metrics. Right. So moving forward with the mindset of not being metric person, not thinking about ROI and actually thinking about awareness. That
Yeah, I
should be
think
the goal for a lot of companies.
awareness and build real relationships. So the other mistake I think people make is that they post themselves, but they don't interact with anybody else's content. And it's almost, I mean, it probably shouldn't be like this, but
Yeah.
sometimes if someone posts something and you think, oh, it's really good, so you pass, you add your comment, and then you might post 10 posts and they don't interact with yours at all, and you start and get a bit like, well, I'm not commenting on yours then if you're not commenting on mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
It's a
like
dance at the end of the day.
yeah, and so you can't have a one-sided relationship. It's that simple, isn't
No.
it, really? And again, it's the same on social media. You're building a relationship, so there has to be some kind of reciprocation there. That's not to
Of
say
course.
you have to comment on everything, but yeah, start to comment on posts that you're genuinely interested in. Like when I see Popcorn on my feed, I will comment. So because I'll be like, oh, it's a dog. Yeah, so so you start to comment and it's just about building rapport and building relationships
Yeah.
with people. And that's what it's a tool for. It's not a broadcast tool.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% am with you. And while I'm actually right now daydreaming about how I should be inspired by your story and start doing it myself, even posting about Popcorn, I know for a fact that I would start at least by drafting something for ChatGPT, especially since I'm still to start this top voice journey. I still don't know what works and what doesn't. I still don't know what to say and what not to say. So I would go to AI. So my question to you is, where and how are you leveraging AI right now inside of Higgs, both within what we're talking about, and if you want to share more externally, of course, about other things and processes that you're utilizing AI?
Yeah, so on the LinkedIn side, I think everybody's different in terms at Higgs as to how much they use AI to post. So personally, what I do is I tend to the way my brain is wired is if I'm chatting to you, I could just tell you. If you get
Yeah.
me to try and write this conversation down as an article, oh my God, it would take me weeks. So so I'll think, oh, I want to post about whatever. And so I tend to use Claude these days, but I'll tell Claude.
They're more of creative than ChatGPT for sure.
Yeah, it depends. I use all of them for different things, but for sort
Mhm.
of posts, I'll tell Claude, here are my thoughts. Basically, here's my thoughts. I want to tell the story on this. Can you kind of unjumble them so they make sense to a normal person?
Perfect.
And it kind of gives me the outline, and then I will sort of put that into my own words, really. So it very much helps me with the structure of the post. And because otherwise, honestly, you'd get it written in first person, third person, then I'd mention something because it's just my brain is just all over the place. So I use it for that. And I think sometimes it's good. Sometimes you think, oh, I've read that somewhere. I'm sure that's a fact. And you don't want to go onto Google necessarily. So you can ask ChatGPT or Perplexity, I quite like as well, to
Mhm.
find me a source to back up what I'm saying.
Oh,
So
that's actually a very nice tip.
yeah, and Perplexity is really good at that because it often cites its source. I think ChatGPT does these days as well. You do always have to check, though. I have to say, though, my one tip, because I don't know what made me check one day. I was actually doing some research for one of our lawyers, And I thought it was about charity. And I thought, well, that sounds like a fantastic initiative. It was about charity, like marketing campaigns. I thought, that's fantastic. I think I don't understand why I haven't heard about that, because it was about an animal charity. And I follow loads of animal charities. And I thought, I've never heard that. It sounds brilliant. And so I Googled it and I couldn't find any evidence that this initiative that Perplexity or whoever had told me about. And then I basically said, have you made this up? And it came back doing that. Yeah, I have.
Yes, I'm
My
sorry,
word.
Michelle. Yes, I did. You're right, Michelle. This doesn't exist. I just hallucinated. That's the term we are using, right? Hallucinations.
Yeah, so
That
you
is
do
true.
fact check what it's telling you, but I do find it useful sometimes where I think, so I wrote a whole series of things about color palettes in branding, and I
Mm.
kind of know quite a bit about it, but I was thinking, I know there was someone who did some actual research on it,
Hmm.
which is probably what I base all my thoughts on without realizing that's what I'm doing. So I'm like, right, who is the person who actually did the research? And so I asked, I can't remember which one, but I asked an AI tool, like, which gives you, like, this research says this research says that. So it's, again, it just helps you. I think it helps you bring all your thoughts together, really. That's
Yeah.
probably that's what I use it for.
If you were to restart this whole effort today, not today, because it's a Friday, nobody wants to start stuff on a Friday, on a Monday. So if on a Monday you were to start it all, you had no experience yet with the top voicing part of LinkedIn, but you know that you need to start and you know that you need to push it forward. Would you stick more towards text content or video content on LinkedIn?
It's a really good question, actually, because I don't follow the LinkedIn algorithm as much as I
Hmm.
perhaps should. What I do is rely on other people to do it and then me read it in my LinkedIn feed.
That's what everybody does, I think.
It sort of works.
Yeah.
So I've got this thing with if you followed what the algorithm wants or allegedly wants, then video content. However, with the way it displays, the way LinkedIn displays video content on mobile these days, which obviously most people access LinkedIn on the mobile, you don't
Hmm.
actually get to see the text part, like read the story basically as to what the video
You
is
have to
about.
click to show more, right?
You have to click, and I think that really, it's certainly from my own posts, I found that if I use video content now, even if it's got my dog in it, and my dog's beautiful, so like she gets loads of likes normally.
I'm actually noticing the picture behind you right now. It's a dog. Is it your dog?
She was she's passed away, that
Oh,
dog, but I have
I'm
another.
sorry.
No, I changed that picture sometimes. So I think on the last podcast I did, it's got had my current dog in the background. So I thought, I'll change it for this one today. You might see her at some point. If she hears me chatting, she often comes up to see who I'm talking to.
I love them.
So yeah, so the video stuff I think is starting to decline from what I've read at the moment. The thing that is doing really, really well is carousels. At
Oh,
one
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And at one point, probably about, I think it was as I started at Higgs, actually. So it was only like 2.5 years ago. Tim was actually, it was rumor had it, LinkedIn was going to drop carousels entirely. And now it's one of their favored content types. I always think, and I say this again to people, like, don't be a slave to the algorithm. Like, if you want to
That's a good one.
post a text post, because I think if it's good content, as in, and it's very subjective as to what good is, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true.
If it's content that people are interested in, you will get impressions, likes, comments, regardless of what format it is. So if you're certainly if you're not comfortable doing video, which I think most people aren't,
Hmm.
I wouldn't worry about it. Do a text post,
Great.
put an image on it.
Great.
I've had posts go really well when they're just text, no image. I've had posts do well when it's an image. And I've had ones that I've spent hours crafting and they just fall. Whatever.
Those are the worst. Those are the worst. When you think in your head, it's like this is top content, and then who likes it? Your dad, your mom, your boss, your
It's
intern, because they need to like what you post, and a random person that you connected in 2016, and you don't even know where you connected to that person.
it's a
Right? These
humbling
are
experience, isn't it?
yeah. Wow. What a time to be alive, as we say. What a time to be alive. Let me hijack the entire conversation into the LinkedIn part because it's really interesting. Again, it's very rare to have somebody to really present how it all worked out. As I said, we have a lot of people that promise the results, but showcasing and demonstrating and I did this, it worked. This is very rare. So that's why I hijacked it all and I apologize for doing so. But we were also talking about the rebrand of
Yes.
Higgs, the clear values that you're now putting into place. A lot of companies that are starting their digital journey also think about doing a rebrand. Maybe because when they started their initial Web 1.0 journey, it was a different logo, it was a Java based website, it was a WordPress templated website, and then you have to move forward. You have to catch up to the trends and to the design trends and the material trends. And that's a rebrand. So how was it for you? But most importantly, why did it need to happen? The rebrand itself. Why did you do it?
So it kind of needed to happen because I would have argued that we didn't really have a brand. We had a
I see.
logo and a visual identity, which I think a lot of people mistake for a brand.
Mhm.
I am not a brand expert by any stretch of imagination, but you look at it and you think if I was trying to explain to people who Higgs are, I would have really struggled, like to say who they are and what they stand for. You would know by being in the building because they do live and breathe those values, but externally we've got a good reputation but not a strong brand. So it was a case of how do we tell this story really, of
Mm.
the kind of the legacy of Higgs and the people and all the, as you now know, all of our clear values. And I've worked in other companies, outside of the legal space where we've done what is apparently a rebrand. And what happens is we get a new logo and a new color palette, and everybody's like a rebrand. Well, not really, because it's still the same place, and you haven't told people about it. So again, at Higgs, it was very much about the culture, and we wanted to bring that across because, I'm slightly biased, obviously, but we're all very nice people. So we wanted to bring that across, and we're all quite down to earth. And when certainly before I started working in legal services, I thought, a law firm was like The Good Wife or something. It was like some American
Mhm.
drama. Everybody was in pinstripe suits and they were really aggressive. And I remember being interviewed for this job by Nick, our managing partner, and it was over Teams or Zoom or something. And you're always a bit nervous, aren't you? And this face appears on the screen in front of
Yeah.
me, and there's Nick, as friendly as you like. He's there, sat in his kitchen or somewhere, wearing his hoodie, just very normal, like really normal. It's like, well, how do we make sure people know that's who we are? So that's sort of why we wanted to do it, and we wanted to do it properly. So we didn't want to just change the logo, say we'd rebranded. We wanted to tell the story of Higgs. So we have like our brand story, and from the brand story came our values. So we did a lot of work across the entire firm to make sure everybody got to input into it. And it wasn't just people. So you can't have a brand, or I don't think you can, where it's just, you just ask your internal people. You've got to ask everybody really who deals with Higgs. So we asked clients, obviously, but we also asked business partners, we asked suppliers, we asked the charities that we work with, we asked the community where we are, and we've got everybody's input and ended up with some absolutely enormous word clouds was one of the things that we did to pull out those keywords that people were saying about us and then to link that back to our values. So they're very much who we are as a firm, and very much the opinions of, well, I wouldn't say absolutely everybody, obviously, because there will be someone out there that doesn't think Higgs are great, but you can't please everybody. On the whole,
Forget about those guys.
no, well, to be honest, like a lot of things in life, it's often down to miscommunication, isn't it? But
Yeah, true.
yes, 99.9% of people think that Higgs are great, and our values represent who we are, and that's
And I
really
agree. I'm with the supportive crowd. Don't you worry. I think you're doing an amazing job. I think the brand itself, again, the whole LinkedIn strategy having worked, even if it didn't, but it's always nicer to talk about success than the things that we tried about. So even everything that you just did, everything that you take into consideration, whenever we're talking about law, most of the companies are very boring. Law can be very boring, right?
and,
It is
and
a
and that's the thing on LinkedIn, isn't it? Because law, unless you're a
yeah,
lawyer, the law is boring, to be honest. I probably
yeah.
say that, but it is. So
That's
actually,
true.
so
And
then
not only law, but like whatever we are working with SEO here, we're doing link building. I don't want to be talking about link building specifically all the time on my LinkedIn because, yeah, I'm going to have the crowd that knows it and cherishes it, but it's going to be like the minority of my followers. A lot of people know me because of the podcast. A lot of people know me because I love pizza and I always talk about pizza on events because I love Barcelona. I have a Barcelona tattoo. So I don't want to be talking about link building and SEO and AI and tech. I want to be talking about more, but we think that whenever we are on LinkedIn, we have to put on a suit, a tie, and a badge, and we have to only talk about numbers and success cases and how I made sure that that company went from zero traffic to 1 million in 2 hours by this amazing SEO tip. Leave a comment down below with SEO, and I'll send you a direct message.
they're
No,
the worst.
no, that's the worst. That's the worst. It needs to stop. And I can see the LinkedIn is already moving towards that. I can see comments already bashing those type of content. I can see people are exhausted on LinkedIn of how much pitch slaps they are receiving every day, how much repeated content they are watching every day. So we need to make sure that we do something different. And that's what you did. And that's why you succeeded. And we all congratulate you over it.
Thank you.
But I do have one last piece of question, which is a trivia one.
Go on.
And then we can close our episode with it. As I have repeated more than once, this was not supposed to be a LinkedIn/rebrand episode, but it was such a wonderful conversation. I had so much to share about it. I think it was, at the end, a better version than what I anticipated of. Now, my question to you, as you said so yourself, when you started working 200 years ago, 250 years ago? Yeah, yes. Okay, when you started working back then, you were working with Yahoo, right? Google wasn't a thing.
No, it didn't exist.
So if you could send yourself a piece of marketing advice back to your 1800 self, the Yahoo self, what would you say to that Michelle?
Oh, well, I would say, what would I say? I don't know. I'd probably say stick at it because you'll probably enjoy it in the end.
Nice.
Yeah, because I do enjoy what I do. And I think I sometimes question, because I used to be more hands-on, particularly with the SEO, as I've said. And I sometimes question, should I have really stuck just with SEO and become one of those SEO experts? And I think, well, no, to be honest, because as much as I still like it. Oh, it's the most stressful job in the world, isn't it? SEO. I do it. I mean, tracking our rankings, and one day I'm on a high, and then within an hour I'm, crying into my tea. So it's just too unpredictable SEO, particularly at the moment with AI overviews and goodness knows what else. So I'd probably say, just keep going. On the moments where I've thought, is this the job for me? Just keep going, because actually you'll find somewhere where you really enjoy working, you're allowed to be yourself. And if you'd have asked me to record this podcast 3 years ago, the answer would have been no. I just would not have had the confidence to do it.
That's interesting to know.
Yeah, it's a really supportive environment. So yeah, my advice to my younger self is just keep at it, because it's worth it in the end.
That's great. Well, Michelle, thank you for being the best. Thank you for sharing the whole rebrand and LinkedIn strategy. Thank you for sharing your insights, what you think about the market, what works and what doesn't. I highly believe that this is a very insight-heavy episode and people will love it. So my only request to those watching us is click on the links down below. You're going to have Higgs LLP website. You're going to have Michelle's LinkedIn. We had, 40 minutes talking about how important it is to engage or even to just see some of the LinkedIn content that she's creating. So, the best way for us to do that is by following her and the people at Higgs. And my last request to you is do come back to the show in the future. We would love having you here to talk about other things. And by the next time, I will make sure to ask other things, I promise.
That's no problem.
Sounds good, Michelle. That's it then. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Michelle. May you have an amazing weekend ahead. Catch you up on the next time.
Thank you.